In one of the game's bad endings, the world that had long succumbed to despair faced its final collapse. At the heart of its destruction stood Yeon Hanul, a girl who was no simple villainess. She was neither the mastermind nor the final adversary, merely a mid-level boss within this broken world. Yet her will alone threatened everything. In this world, where hope had long withered, the presence of a Witch of Calamity was no longer necessary. With no hero strong enough to stop her, Yeon Hanul sought to erase all existence. Her hatred and grief consumed the remnants of life itself, a force that rejected even the twisted order of the world. When the battle was lost, the outcome was absolute. Every trace of life, every soul, every lingering memory faded into nothingness. The world ceased to exist. Game over. Would you try again? On a sunny, ordinary spring day, a new semester began in the 5th grade elementary classroom. Voices filled the air until the teacher's arrival silenced them. Beside the teacher stood a new student, an unfamiliar presence among familiar faces. A quiet moment marked the start of something new. This mundane, everyday life crumbled all too soon. The girl stood at the front, her voice soft yet clear. Her insanely faint blue color shimmered. Perched on her head were long rabbit ears standing tall, while a round rabbit tail peeked from behind. With a gentle smile, she introduced herself. Yeon Hanul. That day, after looking at the new classmate, the boy's world quietly shifted. Yeon Hanul spoke. Her hobbies were reading and listening to music. The ordinary introduction echoed through the classroom, yet the boy's gaze remained fixed on her. In that moment, a buried fragment stirred within him. He remembered his past life. However, there was no reason to dwell on nostalgia, not when standing before him was someone whose voice once carried a far more mature tone. Hanul smiled faintly, saying she would like it if everyone got along. But the boy's mind clung to a distant memory, the same voice whispering into the void. Such a rotten world is better off disappearing. The Witch of Calamity, the one who brought the world to its end, stood before him. Yeon Hanul softly said to take care of her. The boy's memory stirred. She was that mid-level boss, a truth carved deep into his soul. Denial meant nothing. The peaceful days would soon crumble. They were already doomed. Braveheart's the game he once enjoyed in his past life, a school action RPG where a boy dreamed of becoming the best hunter, the fighting spirit's apprentice, Kang Hanbial. It was a story of growth and struggle, where the protagonist carved his own path through countless battles. That game world had been nothing more than entertainment. Braveheart's a game set 200 years after the Cataclysm, where monsters and hunters existed in a world blending advanced science and magic. The protagonist, Kang Hanbial, dreamed of becoming the best hunter and enrolled in Goomgang Academy in the educational town. At first, the story seemed like a typical youth school life plot, filled with growth and friendship, but this world was far from bright. The game held 44 endings, most of them bad endings where the world collapsed into ruin. Yet, among all the dangers, there was one more big problem: a soft-hearted, cowardly swordsman who could never fully unleash his abilities. A completely useless burden. During battles, he would always flee. An innocent boy who didn't know how to hate others. Even when bullied, he was nothing but a frustrating crybaby who wouldn't even defend himself. The cancer of the protagonist's party. That character was me, the rabbit of the divine sword arts, Du Kyunwoo. If he had truly reincarnated, why did it have to be as such a cancer character? As if that cruel fate wasn't enough, he found himself in the same class as one of the most dangerous characters in the game. No matter how hard he tried, the future ahead was already far beyond his ability. He was screwed. The teacher called his name, Du Kyunwoo. He turned slowly, his gaze flickering toward Yeon Hanul, the girl who would one day become the Witch of Calamity, a character who seemed to bear the suffering of the whole world from the moment she was born, abandoned by her parents, mocked by others, regarded as an eyesore, never receiving a shred of affection. Her lonely, weary life began with the Mana disaster, her mutated DNA marking her as an aim. Even if her appearance and blood didn't match her parents, abandoning her for that was simply too cruel. He understood why she would one day bring the world to ruin, but even so, he couldn't stand by and let the world downfall happen. The easiest solution would be to eliminate her before she became a calamity. Yet, deep down, he didn't want to do that. Was there another way? Then, a sudden idea sparked in Kyunwoo's mind. The teacher's voice filled the classroom, instructing him to choose a classmate to sit next to if they accepted. This was his chance. If he wanted to change her way of thinking, it had to start now before the story even began. In the game, Yeon Hanul grew to resent the world because of her cruel circumstances and environment. But if it was now, when everything was still in its early stages, maybe his actions could change the future. Among all the villains in Brave Hearts, Yeon Hanul was the only one who possessed the power to destroy the world. In that case, Kyunwoo approached Yeon Hanul and greeted her with a soft hi. Hanul's insanely faint blue color shimmered as she blinked, puzzled by his sudden approach. In his mind, Kyunwoo resolved he would help Hanul to not become pessimistic about the world. With a small breath, he asked if he could sit next to her. If their bond progressed, if he could bring her to his side, he could reinforce his own strength. 5 years remained until the start of the game's story. Before enrolling in the Goomgang Academy, he had to become her friend, guiding her onto the right path. If he succeeded, he could turn Yeon Hanul from a calamity into a blessing. Kyunwoo faced Yeon Hanul and made his decision. With a determined voice, he declared her as his partner from that day forward. Introducing himself as Do Kyunwoo, he extended a hand toward the girl fated to bring calamity, and just like that, he became the mid-level boss's childhood friend.
To change the Witch of Calamity, Yeon Hanul, the girl who would one day resent the world, that was his goal. Even still, how could he ever get close to her? Hanul shifted uneasily, breaking Kyunwoo's gaze. Realizing he'd been staring, he pushed aside his hesitation. Thinking too much would only waste time. He had to ask her directly to come to his house. His eyes flicked to her rabbit tail, a strange curiosity lingering. Was it real? Hanul's sudden outburst made Kyunwoo flinch, his body shaking. Her sharp gaze locked onto him, questioning why he was sitting beside her. Caught off guard, Kyunwoo's mind raced. It was better to say it directly. He calmly answered. He simply wanted to be friends with her. Hanul froze, her expression wavering. A faint blush bloomed on her face as she asked, why would anyone choose to sit beside her? Kyunwoo's casual response seemed to only deepen Hanul's puzzlement. Her eyes flickered with doubt, questioning why someone from a famous swordsmanship family would want to befriend someone like her. Worry flashed across Kyunwoo's face before an idea struck him. With sudden enthusiasm, he compared her to Mongshil, a rabbit he cherished, saying she looked just like one. Hanul's face turned red, her expression shifting into anger. Her ears twitched as she glared at him, firmly denying any resemblance to a rabbit. Hanul abruptly ran out of the classroom, her steps echoing down the hall. Kyunwoo's heart sank. Had he made her angry? Regret weighed on him as he called out an apology. At the doorway, Hanul paused, her back turned. Without looking back, she quietly said they'd meet tomorrow. Then, she quickly disappeared down the hall. Fortunately, Kyunwoo sensed that Hanul wasn't truly angry with him. Even so, the surreal reality of being inside the world of the game still felt hard to believe. If this world was still part of the game's system, why couldn't he see his status window? With curiosity, Kyunwoo instinctively commanded the status window to appear, and to his surprise, it popped up before him. His eyes scanned the details, growing more surprised. His abilities were pretty good, far better than he remembered. Yet, if he had such potential, why had he always been the one to get constantly bullied? This was a fresh start, a life far better than the one he had before. It couldn't even be compared to his previous one. Kyunwoo returned home, greeted by his mother's warm voice. She asked about his day, concern in her gentle tone. Without a word, Kyunwoo suddenly hugged her, catching her by surprise. In that moment, the lingering memories of his past life and the world of the game began to fade. He wasn't a player, nor someone clinging to a life long gone. He was Do Kyunwoo, nothing more, nothing less. Feeling a wave of gratitude, he expressed his thanks to his mother. Her warm smile remained as she reminded him to always share his worries with her. With that, she urged him to wash up, promising a snack before his evening training at the Swordsmanship Academy. Kyunwoo's mind raced. He needed to do something to truly live as Do Kyunwoo. The most urgent thing was to obtain a sword technique that could represent a prestigious swordsmanship family like his, a technique that stood at the top of all others, like a lion reigning over all beasts. Its essence lay in the tip of the sword, sharp and dominant. It was also the very technique that once made Do Kyunwoo the greatest swordsman. Kyunwoo gently petted Mongshil, a fond smile on his face. The rabbit's round tail and ears reminded him of Hanul, their resemblance almost uncanny. Kyunwoo's resolve hardened. He needed to completely master the Beast King style. At the Sword Training Academy, Kyunwoo noticed only a few people around. It seemed he had arrived early. These academies operated across several cities, offering training to those outside prestigious families. Unlike the Beast King style, most learned conventional swordsmanship, which made the academy's popularity widespread. The sudden stares from everyone caught Kyunwoo off guard. At the center of attention stood Do-hyun, the lightning flower of the Do family, 2 years older and the most promising prodigy among the current generation. In the game, she was a student of Gumgang Academy, destined to become the strongest swordsman and a powerful ally to Kyunwoo. Her presence here wasn't unusual, given the academy belonged to the Do family. They were bound to cross paths sooner or later. Shaking off his thoughts, Kyunwoo refocused. Mastering the Beast King style was what truly mattered now. Kyunwoo gripped his sword tightly and began his practice. Beast King style, first form. His blade sliced through the air, following the sequence. 1, 2, 5, 9. Each movement carried a unique rhythm, blending strength and precision. A fleeting thought crossed his mind. Would Do-hyun be impressed by this? Yet as he continued, the question faded. The exhilaration of moving his body, the sensation of sweat dripping down, it felt surprisingly fun. The students' attention shifted toward the lone figure practicing, their gazes filled with curiosity and disdain. Woo Gyeomdong's eyes narrowed at the sight, his expression twisted with mockery. Woo Yundong observed with a smug grin, questioning the boy's presence so early. Woo Dongdong watched with ridicule, convinced that the clumsy movements would never translate into a real fight. The 3 identical boys, known as Cerberus, belonged to the group of extra characters in the game. Their sole purpose was to torment others, especially Kyunwoo. Their relentless bullying stemmed from the influence of Do Seungwoo, Kyunwoo's cousin. The 3 boys taunted Kyunwoo, their voices pressing into him like thorns. Frustration swelled inside him, a heavy weight he couldn't shake off. It was the first time he struggled to focus, but they weren't the only reason. A deeper anger stirred within him, one born from memories of helplessness. He recalled the cruel words from the past, how they mocked him, calling him a disgrace to the family, pitying his parents for having someone like him. Back then, he endured it, because he hated hurting others. But now, he knew better. The triplets mocked Kyunwoo's practice, offering to spar under the guise of helping him. Kyunwoo, recalling the hidden strength within the human body, accepted the challenge, calmly preparing for a light match, just like in the game.
At the Sword Training Academy, all eyes fixed on the sparring match. Kyunwoo unleashed the Beast King style's basic technique, second form charging stance. The strike sent Gyeomdong crashing into the wall. His siblings rushed to him, alarmed by his bleeding nose. Confusion filled the air as they wondered how Kyunwoo's attack had been too fast to see. Kyunwoo's cold gaze fixed on the triplets as he urged them to rise, showing no hint of hesitation. The triplets, still in shock, muttered among themselves, bewildered by his sudden change. Despite their fear, Kyunwoo's unwavering voice reminded them that such blows were far from fatal, something he knew well from enduring their torment in the past. The triplets attempted to intimidate him, invoking the name of their bagger. However, Kyunwoo's composed response shattered their confidence. The mention of Do Seungwoo left them frozen, their eyes widening in disbelief as uncertainty crept into their expressions. The triplets recalled their childhood dreams of becoming hunters, their young voices filled with determination. Yet reality soon dampened their hopes, with Seungwoo explaining the steep fees of hunter education. When Seungwoo handed them a flyer about sponsorship for talented individuals, their eyes lit up. Seungwoo agreed to help them, but not without a condition. Since they would be attending the same school as Kyunwoo, they would need to make sure his life wouldn't be so easy. Kyunwoo reflected on his past, realizing he had endured the triplets' bullying without resistance. He asserted his standing in the Do family, reminding them of his influence over their sponsorship. The triplets, caught off guard, whispered among themselves, confused at how the situation had shifted. The door swung open as the instructor entered, scolding the group for sparring without permission. He criticized Kyunwoo, reminding him of his imperfect standing in the Do family. Without hesitation, Kyunwoo pointed at the triplets, silently placing the blame on them. The instructor's confusion lingered as Kyunwoo questioned if he should endure mistreatment as a member of the Do family. The triplets, caught off guard, hesitated before admitting they had started the provocation and insulted him. The instructor stood stunned, while Kyunwoo calmly reaffirmed his words. A sense of satisfaction filled him. He realized standing up for himself was long overdue. Kyunwoo entered the classroom, his mind set on returning every slight from now on. He glanced around the room, wondering if he had arrived too early. Kyunwoo noticed Hanyul quietly reading a book. He greeted her, and she shyly replied. Sitting beside her, he observed her usual early arrival and dedication to reading. Determined to get closer to her, he wondered if she truly enjoyed books that much. Hanyul admitted her love for books and curiously asked about Kyunwoo's interest. He casually mentioned preferring web novels, making her wonder why he joined the book club. When Kyunwoo revealed it was because she signed up, Hanyul's face flushed in surprise, struggling to hide her shock. Kyunwoo asked if Hanyul enjoyed web novels, and she admitted to reading only the free ones due to her limited pocket money. Realizing her situation at the orphanage, Kyunwoo quickly shifted the conversation, asking about her favorite dramas to lighten the mood. Hanyul shyly mentioned liking Luxury House and wondered how Kyunwoo knew she enjoyed dramas. When he reminded her that she mentioned it during her introduction, her heart fluttered. The thought of him remembering such a small detail made her blush. Doubts clouded her mind. Surely he was only talking to her out of curiosity. As an Ain, she believed it was only a matter of time before his interest would fade, just like everyone else. Hanyul's ears twitched as Kyunwoo's gaze lingered on them. He wondered if she would dislike it if he asked to touch them, but quickly brushed off the thought. Her resemblance to Mongsel crossed his mind again. Suddenly remembering something, Kyunwoo pulled out his phone, showing a video of his beloved rabbit. With a bright smile, he offered to show it to Hanyul. Hanyul's eyes sparkled as she watched the video of Mongsel binkying around. Her delighted reaction made Kyunwoo's heart flutter. Without thinking much, he blurted out an invitation to visit his house after school. Hanyul instinctively agreed, but her mind froze a second later, realizing what she had just said. Kyunwoo, seizing the moment, casually suggested they play at his house, leaving Hanyul flustered and blushing. Hanyul followed Kyunwoo into the grand house, her eyes widening in awe. The spacious interior mirrored the elegance of the luxury houses she'd seen in dramas. As they stepped inside, Kyunwoo's mother greeted her warmly, recognizing her immediately. Hanyul's heart skipped at the unexpected kindness. Kyunwoo, flustered, called out to his mom, breaking the moment. Hanyul's heart tightened as fragmented memories surfaced, faded voices from the past echoing harsh words. A friend's parent had once scolded, warning against playing with ants. Hanyul's heart trembled at the warmth in Kyunwoo's mother's voice. It was the first time in a long while someone welcomed her so kindly. The gentle smile on her face made Hanyul's chest tighten. Kyunwoo casually asked for tteokbokki, and his mother gladly agreed. Kyunwoo gently took Hanyul's hand, his grip warm and reassuring as he led her inside. Hanyul's heart fluttered, torn between doubt and longing. She knew deep down that his curiosity might fade, just like everyone else's had before. Yet in that fleeting moment, she couldn't bring herself to let go of his hand. Inside the luxurious house, Hanyul's eyes sparkled as she marveled at the spacious interior. Everything felt surreal, like a scene straight out of her favorite drama. She shared tteokbokki with Kyunwoo at the table, the warm, spicy flavors filling the cozy atmosphere. Laughter echoed as they played with Mongsel, the rabbit hopping around them. Hanyul's face lit up with pure happiness, a rare, genuine smile. Night fell, wrapping the house in a warm glow. The front door opened, and Kyunwoo's father entered, his deep voice announcing his return. Kyunwoo's mother greeted him with a gentle smile, noting his late arrival. Kyunwoo welcomed him back, while little Yi-yoon rolled on the floor in frustration. Her pouty voice filled the room as she whined, longing to see her rabbit sister. Kyunwoo explained that his friend visited earlier, but Yi-yoon was out, leaving her upset. With a determined look, Kyunwoo asked his father to spar after dinner. His father's eyes sparkled with excitement, as if he'd been waiting for this moment. He grinned, thrilled that Kyunwoo finally showed interest in training now that he was in 5th grade. Kyunwoo wanted to see how much he had improved. His father, caught off guard, questioned his intent. Without hesitation, Kyunwoo expressed his desire to experience actual combat, a chance to kill monsters firsthand. That night at Kyunwoo's house, sparring will begin. His father observed the sudden request, questioning Kyunwoo's impatience. He reminded him that there was no need to rush. The time to face real battles hadn't come yet. Kyunwoo's thoughts raced. 5 years from now, he would enter the Du Family Sword Academy headquarters. Alongside the protagonist, Kong Han-bil, he would inevitably face crises while solving various incidents. To prepare, he needed to gain a solid grasp of actual combat. The other kids in the family had likely already experienced battle. Compared to them, he was far behind, and he needed to catch up, starting now. Kyunwoo's father mentioned the incident at the Sword Training Academy, where a student had been injured during the spar. He acknowledged hearing that Kyunwoo claimed to have done nothing wrong. His sharp gaze fixed on Kyunwoo, not with anger, but curiosity, seeking the truth rather than preparing to scold. Kyunwoo noticed the shift, realizing his father was more interested in his intentions than the outcome. Kyunwoo expressed his conviction, recalling the teachings instilled in him since childhood, that the sword from the Du family's divine swordsmanship existed to protect and save lives. He had carried those words in his heart, never raising his blade without purpose. He wouldn't have embraced that belief if not for the memories of his past life, the struggles he endured, and the lessons carved into him. Reflecting on the life he once lived and the uncertain future ahead had reshaped his entire mindset. Kyunwoo believed that those who couldn't protect themselves would never be able to protect others. His conviction fueled his desire to fight, not out of anger, but to become stronger. With unwavering determination, he expressed his resolve to face real monsters. Kyunwoo's father smiled, acknowledging the maturity in his son's reasoning. He recognized how much Kyunwoo had changed. However, before granting his request, he set a condition. Kyunwoo had to prove that his skills were developed enough to face a real monster. Only then would he agree to spar with him. Kyunwoo's father pointed his finger, adding another condition. He wouldn't use mana and wouldn't move more than 5 steps, allowing Kyunwoo to attack freely. When Kyunwoo asked about the Beast King style, his father assured him that he would only use the basics. Kyunwoo recalled his father's lesson, not to hesitate when wielding a sword. The conditions were clear. As his father urged him to attack, Kyunwoo resolved to follow his advice without holding back. Kyunwoo gripped his training sword tightly, dashing forward with a fierce sprint. His father effortlessly deflected the strike, using only his sword to block. Undeterred, Kyunwoo crouched low, preparing to launch another assault. With a burst of energy, he leapt into the air, swinging his sword down, but his father calmly parried the attack once more, his movements precise and unwavering. Kyunwoo's father remarked that such attacks wouldn't work. Without hesitation, Kyunwoo lunged forward with another sword strike. His father effortlessly leapt to dodge it. Seizing the opportunity, Kyunwoo's eyes sharpened. This was the moment. He swiftly followed with another attack, aiming precisely. His father's smile hinted at amusement, recognizing the technique. However, his expression shifted to surprise as Kyunwoo feigned the attack, aiming at his blind spot with calculated precision, and leapt backward. Kyunwoo's father winced, muttering how the brat managed to land such a powerful strike. Kyunwoo's confident smile lingered as he stood his ground, declaring his intention to be acknowledged. His father chuckled, surprised at how much his son had grown, no longer hesitating to attack, even against his own father. Kyunwoo grinned mischievously, asking if he had passed the test. His father's loud shout echoed through the night, calling him a rude brat. In the morning, Kyunwoo's father announced their departure, assuring they would return before dinner. His mother, concern filling her eyes, questioned the decision. She wondered if Kyunwoo was too young for such a dangerous task, fearing it was too soon to expose him to the harsh reality of real combat. Kyunwoo and his father exchanged confident glances, both sharing the belief that everything would be fine. Kyunwoo echoed his father's sentiment with unwavering determination. His mother, still worried, reminded them to be careful and not to push too hard. With a reassuring smile, Kyunwoo promised he'd return safely, leaving the house with excitement flickering in his eyes. As the car moved along the road, Hyunwoo's father asked if he was ready, receiving a firm yeah in response. The vehicle drove off, leaving the house behind. Hyunwoo's mind wandered, recalling the game's settings. The world had become dramatically unstable since the Calamity change. This instability triggered the dimensional distortion phenomenon, where dimensions from different worlds collided, heavily influencing reality. From these distortions, monsters began to pour out, transforming the other side into dungeons. When distorted dimensions of different worlds overlapped, they created gates. If these gates weren't resolved in time, the world inside would explode, scattering into reality, a phenomenon called outbreak. Unlike dungeons, gates had a strict time limit. Failing to conquer them would significantly affect the ending of the world. To achieve the desired ending, managing the gate erosion rate was crucial, not only for survival, but for the growth of characters as well. Hyunwoo's father planned to retrieve the gate key from the warehouse at the Regulus clan's workplace upon arrival. Hyunwoo's mind clearing a gate granted a gate key, allowing it to be cleared again, a system created by the game developers for players seeking repeated challenges. That same setting was still in effect even after Hyunwoo's reincarnation. They soon arrived at the Regulus clan's workplace, his father's place of work. Hyunwoo and his father arrived at the Regulus clan's Sonpagu branch, a renowned organization founded by the first head of the Du family during the catastrophe. With branches across the country, the clan managed dungeons, gates, and monster habitats under government supervision. Normally, entry required a hunter certificate, something Hyunwoo didn't possess yet, making his access to the gate an exception. Employees greeted Hyunwoo's father, the branch manager, with respect. He acknowledged them with a polite nod, thanking them for their hard work. However, Hyunwoo's situation was different within the clan his father managed. As the branch manager's son, he wasn't strictly bound by the usual restrictions. With his father's help, he could bypass the requirement and access the gate directly under the clan's control. The clan employee suddenly hugged Hyunwoo, exclaiming in surprise that he was the manager's son. Hyunwoo's father chuckled, remarking that his son looked innocent, a relief, considering he didn't inherit his own rough personality. The employee playfully pinched Hyunwoo's stretchy cheeks, laughing as he teased about hugging him tightly with his muscular arms. An employee confirmed the branch manager's plan to enter the gate with his son, instructing them to access room 2 as scheduled. Hyunwoo's father acknowledged and signaled his son to follow. Hyunwoo's eyes fixed on the gate key his father received, noticing its white color with curiosity. The gate's difficulty levels were classified into 7 distinct key colors. White represented the easiest level, followed by gray, yellow, green, red, blue, and the most challenging, black. Hyunwoo's father confirmed that the white key would be challenging enough for him. Hyunwoo internally cursed, hoping to challenge at least a gray-level gate. Without further delay, his father signaled for them to enter. Hyunwoo's father explained that the artificial gate in front of them functioned by inserting a key obtained from clearing a dungeon, something Hyunwoo had seen once before at the main house. Hyunwoo recalled that the clan's ability to sustain itself relied heavily on the maintenance costs from these gates, a testament to how powerful his family truly was. Hyunwoo's father asked him one last time if he was certain about entering the gate, reminding him that once inside, there was no way out until the dungeon was cleared. Without hesitation, Hyunwoo confirmed that he had already made up his mind. His father smiled proudly at Hyunwoo's determination. Hyunwoo added with a playful tone, mentioning that if he couldn't clear the dungeon, his father would step in and finish it for him. His father chuckled, reassuring Hyunwoo that he would step in if things went wrong. He reminded him not to overdo it, joking that he didn't want to get scolded by his mother later. His father inserted the key, activating the gate. As they stepped inside, the scenery shifted into a dim cave illuminated by glowing pink crystals. Hyunwoo's eyes widened as he took in the sight, thinking to himself, "So this is a gate." A notification appeared before Hyunwoo. "You have entered the gate. White level, pink crystal cave. Qianwu wondered if the gate's white level difficulty made the clearing conditions straightforward. His eyes scanned every corner, searching for any sign of goblins lurking in the shadows. Qianwu gripped his training sword tightly, aware of the danger ahead. Caution filled his mind as he reminded himself to stay vigilant, prepared for any goblins that might attempt a surprise attack. Qianwu's eyes widened as he saw father standing calmly with a group of goblins tied up behind him. Qianwu counted the goblins, his eyes scanning each one carefully. There were 15 in total, all bound and squirming. Qianwu assessed the situation, realizing that the number of captured goblins matched the dungeon's clear conditions. If they defeated all 15 goblins, they would successfully complete the dungeon. Qianwu signaled his readiness with a firm nod. His father acknowledged, deciding to release one goblin first, knowing Qianwu couldn't handle all of them at once. His father warned him not to underestimate the goblin, even if it was the weakest of the group. As the creature was released, Qianwu acknowledged the goblin's ferocity. His father reminded him to stay vigilant. Qianwu recalled his knowledge from both the game and the teachings of the Du family's divine swordsmanship. He understood that the goblin, driven by desperation, was fighting for survival. Gripping a crystal as a weapon, the creature posed a real threat. A single mistake could cost him everything. Stealing his resolve, Qianwu unleashed the Beast King-style basic technique, fifth form, piercing stance, a swift, precise strike aimed at the goblin's head. The goblin collapsed to its knees before drawing its final breath. His father sighed in relief, observing his son's skill. Qianwu tightened his grip on the sword, a faint smile forming on his lips as he whispered to himself, "One down for now."